Well, it really is a great joy to be with all of you on this important topic of the theme that Pam has put forward, voices in education, particularly the voices of the past, the voices of our history, of our tradition. And I think this story of education can tell us a lot about our current situation. My talk is actually much taken from this book that's actually on the table, but it's called The Heart of Culture. It's a text that we developed at the Center for Catholic Studies, and I think it captures the story of Catholic education in a very accessible manner. Because one of the things you see in the story of Catholic education is Catholic education has the capacity to reform itself. That's why it's been around for 2,000 years. It's ever reforming. And it does this largely throughout the history through a threefold pattern. First, it has the capacity to recognize the problems that it's facing at the time. Now, there's a two-pronged danger here, because for many of us, we sometimes don't recognize the problems in front of us. And many of us can easily marry the spirit of the age. And when we marry the spirit of the age, we're in danger of becoming a widower in the next. And the other problem we often have is we misidentify the problems. And we're also fighting the last war. Pope Francis is fond of saying that we're not living in an age of change, but a change of the age. And we are watching many long-standing arrangements and relations being altered, and sometimes with surprising rapidity. So the challenge, of course, is as we're trying to figure out what is the problem, how do you figure out what the problem is? And this is why understanding your story is of such critical importance. And that's why the second thing that you see within the tradition is that when people are facing the issues, they know what their tradition is. They look to the past. They look upon whose shoulders do they stand. Because here's the problem. The reason why we're often in the problems is because of amnesia. We've often forgotten what the past is trying to tell us. And here we're not being simply traditionalist. We're not simply about going to the past because it's old. We go to the past because it's telling us something that's profoundly true. That's why the tradition is so important. And then when we can do that, we get to the third thing, is that we need to innovate. We need to find new forms. We need to protect sometimes the old ones, but sometimes we need to let things go. Newman has this wonderful line, John Henry Newman, when he says, "To live is to change, and to be perfect is to have changed often." We must change because our times are changing, but not in order to become something else, but rather to be true to the perennial principles we have been given. There's often a big distinction between the form of education and the principles. So the focus of this talk is to get at a better grasp about what we mean by this story of Catholic education, which I think enables us to see our challenges that's in front of us and to point to forms of education for the future. But this idea of the story of education has to be understood in terms of that there's three interdependent stories going on. The first story is it's a very personal story. This is our story. We are involved in Catholic education. This is not simply a story of the past. We're not passive spectators. There's a work to be done in this story. I see in this room people in the boards, teachers, parents, students, all sorts of it. All of us are involved in this story. This is our story. The second kind of story is that this is a cosmic story. One of the most extraordinary claims of the story of Catholic education is that it's God's story. That the Word became flesh and changed everything. It's a Christocentric story. At the heart of Catholic education is this invitation to participate in the integrating power of the Incarnation in everything. Hans Ernst von Balthasar and Bishop Barron has popularized this idea, saying that we are in a theodrama, that creation has a pattern to it, that we have sinned to distort that pattern, and that God's grace can help us to redeem it. So, cosmic story. Third story, this is a deeply institutional story. The institutional story of Catholic education is one of the most extraordinary stories in education ever. It doesn't go back to the latest fad. It doesn't go back to the 20th century. It doesn't go back to the founding of this country. It goes back over 2,000 years and even longer. It's an institutional story that will be the principal focus of this talk. But these three stories present us somewhat of a challenge. And the challenge is, I think, a lot of us have a hard time understanding that we're part of this story. Because the daily grind goes on. We have lots of challenges. We have discipline problems, we have difficult parents to deal with, we have inadequate compensation, we have pandemics, we have decreasing margins, we have demographic shifts and cliffs, we have increasing competition, all of which grinds away. And this is actually the thing that grinds away that we're not in a theodrama. And we easily, again, as Bishop Barron says, we have fallen into an ego drama. A world that's written by ourselves, directed by ourselves, and starring ourselves. And this is the ego drama that causes us to forget. To forget what we might call the spiritual insight of time. That if we don't know where we have come from, it's hard to know where we're going. And if we don't know where we've come from, where we're going, it's hard to know what role we play in the current moment. And the challenge is that we easily drift. We assimilate, and we start to look like no different than anybody else. But if we awaken to this spiritual insight, and when we see in the present moment both our origins and our destiny, this becomes the clarity of the story. The story is about our origins and our destiny that's happening here. So in this talk, I will want to more focus on the idea of the origins. Where have we come from in Catholic education? And if one was to put a kind of simplified timeline, one could look at it this way. It gives a kind of the arc of the story. Now, history is complicated. I'm looking around and I see a few historians here, and I'm sure they'll kind of nitpick me on what I'm going to say. But so we want to realize that there's going to be a lot of complications to it, but there's a narrative. There's a narrative of this story that we need to kind of grasp. And what I like to do is highlight three moments in this arc. I'd like to focus on first the foundations about what Catholic education is, that's basically gets founded in the classical age. Second, I'd like to talk about the institutions that get developed in Catholic education, which is largely developed in the Middle Ages. And three, I want to talk about some of the ruptures that we are currently facing for Catholic education today, which is found in our modern age.